Okay, once you pull all the wires through the stock location, we can put the reflector back into the headlight, and screw it onto the stock mounting locations. So pull the wires out the back as you're bringing the reflector closer. So remove any extra slack inside. Insert the reflector onto the 3 mounting locations, and then tighten the 3 screws in the back, this one, and this one. The way you want to tighten them is do a few turns on each screw and then go to the next screw. Don't do one all the way and then go to the next. Tighten this one 3 turns, this one 3 turns, this one 3 turns, and kind of go around tightening it. Also be very careful. These screws screw into these plastic inserts, and the thread in them is very easy to strip. So if you back in the reflector all the way in until it reaches the stop, you can overspin and strip the thread. So make sure you keep watching how much thread you have left as you're tightening it. Okay, so the way you want to tighten the 3 back screws, this screw all the way back, so this top screw you tighten all, so the reflector goes all the way back until it hits the stop, then you stop. This screw about halfway, so if you look at the screw from the inside of the headlight, you'll see the reflector is only halfway backed in and there's half more thread left on this screw. And then this one is about 3/4 in, so there's only 1/4 thread left on the screw. Right here you can see the screw, how much thread you have left. So all the way in, no thread left, halfway in, and 3/4 in. Actually, correction, I mean you can fine tune this as you go along, but this one about halfway also. So this one halfway, halfway, and all the way in. And then if you ever need to adjust the height of the beam, you can turn this screw. No, actually, no. You can turn this screw. If you turn this screw clockwise, the beam would go lower. If you turn this screw counterclockwise, the beam will go higher. So you need to do this final adjustment when you mount the headlight back onto the bike, and once you have the bike level and you're sitting on the bike. That way you can aim the headlight so it's not, the beam needs to go pretty much straight. It shouldn't go up, shining people's eyes, and it shouldn't be too much down because you won't see far forward. So once you mount this on the bike, turn on the headlights and turn this screw clockwise or counterclockwise until you're satisfied that the beam is going straight forward. And now mount the second reflector into the headlight. Bring out the wires from right here. This is where we have all the wires coming out. For a nice clean look. Once everything's installed, it will look like this. And mount the second reflector. Okay, we inserted the second reflector. Everything is mounted, all the wires are pulled out. They're nice and neat inside the headlight. They're not too tight inside. Pull these out as far as you won't need, but leave a little bit of slack for the wires inside of the headlight. Last things you want to do is the red and black wires. Put the plugs back on them. The way you want to put them is you have this locking notch right here. This locking thingy that you press. So if you have this locking notch on top, then the red wire goes into the slot that's further away from you, and the black wire goes to the slot that's closer to you. But a very easy way to just see where this needs to go is simply take the relay harness, and this is the little plug that this plugs into, and you can simply see where the red wire needs to be. So, and you can see right now the red wire is on top and the black is on the bottom. So like we just did. The red and black is your high beam, low beam controller wire. Insert the second one. And the last thing you want to do is put a zip tie on this rubber grommet where the wires are coming out, right on the grommet. This would hold the wires in a bunch, and it won't be easy to pull these wires out of the headlight. You don't want to pull on these wires because they'll get pulled out from inside the headlight. So the zip tie would hold them all in a bunch and secure, well, more secure. Right here, right on that rubber grommet, and that will squeeze all the wires together. Okay, we're basically ready to test everything and seal the headlights. Before you seal them, what you want to do is test all the halos and all the components, make sure everything works. Before you reseal the headlights, you don't want to open them again. To test the halos, you can simply take your inverter, plug it in to the halo, and then the red and black wire, just connect that straight to your bike's battery. Red to the plus, black to minus, and the inverter will power whichever ring you connected it to. Basically test all the rings, make sure they work, and once everything is tested and it's working, we'll be resealing the headlight. We've tested the halos, and now we can reseal the headlights. To reseal the headlights, if you use the heat gun in the first place, what you will do is reheat the glue in the seam with your heat gun, and then slightly reheat the glue on the lens itself, and simply close the headlight back up. If you use the oven method, you would take the lenses, place them onto the headlight, but don't push them in all the way. So only insert them, but don't push them in all the way. You don't want the glue to grab too much. And put the whole assembly back into your oven. Make sure the oven is preheated to 225 Fahrenheit degrees. Place the headlight in the middle of the oven on top of a towel for 5 minutes. This would get the glue hot enough, and then remove the whole headlight from the oven and press in the lenses. You can get clamps like these at any hardware store. They're like $1, $2 each. And then you can clamp the lens onto the headlight in 3, 4, 5 spots around the headlight, and that will hold it tight until the glue cools off and the headlight will be resealed. It only takes about 15-20 minutes for the glue to cool off, and then your headlight is ready. So let's get started. Turn on the heat gun to the high setting, same way you were opening the headlights, and simply heat up the seam. And now simply take the lens and close the headlight. These clamps are very handy, so all you do is just clamp them. Onto the headlight, and they will hold the headlight shut for you. And then, help out with your hand, squish it tight, and make sure you just close all the tabs. And then let this cool down for about 15-20 minutes and do the second half. You can see here how I clamp the headlight. Now we need to take your rear dust caps, and drill a hole in the center. You need to use a cordless drill with a 7/8 inch bit. This is a hole saw bit. And drill a hole right in the center of the cap. And this is for the HID wires. Like this. And one of the last things we want to do is install the light bulbs, install the HID bulbs, and you are done. So remove the bulbs from the holders. Do not touch the glass on the bulbs. Avoid touching the glass at all costs. This would make the bulbs burn out prematurely from the oils on your skin. So what we're going to do is we need to secure this rubber grommet into the hole that we just drilled. So what you do is from the inside of the cap, you're going to pull out the wires with the two plugs. Then you have the cap, the rubber seal, and you'll simply secure it by pulling the first portion of it out through the hole. And that's it. This is how it looks like. And the rubber seal is secure. And what we'll now do is take the bulb, insert it into the projector, and then use the metal clip that holds the bulb. So simply insert the two open ends on the clip into the left side of the projector of the bulb holder. There's going to be two holes, so you insert the clips into the two holes. And then push down and lock the clip on the other end, on the right side of the bulb holder. And that's it. The bulb is secure, and you can close the rear cap. So just hold the wires, pull the cap forward by pulling the wires out, and close the rear cap, and then pull the wires out as far as they go. And the same thing on the second bulb. And we close the cap. And your headlight is done. Built. And now we'll be wiring the BKMOTO HID projector kit. This tutorial is for the Ninja 300 and the Kawasaki ZX10R 636 2013 and up, and it also applies to the 2011 and up ZX10R, and might apply to a few other bike models. On the Ninja 300 and Ninja 636, your stock pigtails, basically these plugs, which connect into your motorcycle, and on the other end they connect to the light bulbs, are located on your rubber caps, and they need to be removed from the rubber caps. On the ZX10R, these pigtails are sticking out from the back of the headlight. They're coming out of the back of the headlight, so you'll be cutting off this plug inside of your headlight and then pulling out the wires from the back of the headlight while building your headlight. So in the Ninja 636 and 300, in this case we'll be cutting off the plug inside of the rubber cap, and then reusing the stock pigtails to wire your new HIDs and halos into the motorcycle. So first step, cut off this H7 plug. You no longer need it. You can throw it away. And pull out the stock pigtail from the cap. You can also pull this off so you can see easier which wire is which. And cut off the second one. And you don't need these caps anymore. Our kit comes with new rubber caps, which will be used instead of these, so you can toss them away as well. On the ZX10R you have plastic caps, so you keep those, and you're going to use the same plastic caps that you have. Ninja 300 and 636, you don't reuse the rubber caps. Now onto the wiring. Strip these wires. And let's get started. This particular setup has dual halos, so a smaller halo ring, a bigger halo ring, and demonize in the headlight. And we'll be using two on-off switches to control the headlight. The first switch would control your low beam HIDs, so those are your main headlight bulbs in low beams. So you can turn those off and just have the halo rings working and your demonize working. And the second switch would be wired into your dual halos. So you can turn off the halo rings and only have the demonize without anything else on. And your demonize would be wired straight to the low beam positive and negative. That way they will basically always be on when the bike is running. But once you turn on the first switch, you turn on your HIDs, you no longer see the demonize. And the red or blue or green demonize just becomes a white HID light. So there's really almost no need to put a separate switch on the demonize. But you could, if you wanted to, you can put a third switch on the demonize. Now these are your stock pigtails. On the Ninja 300 and 636 you're gonna have one white plug and one black plug. The white plug is your low beam plug, the black plug is your high beam plug. On the ZX10R both plugs are black, so it doesn't matter, they're the same plugs. So you're gonna treat one black plug as your low beam plug and the other black plug is your high beam plug on the ZX10. Now let's look at the plugs closer. If you hold the plug exactly like I'm holding it, with the opening facing you, and so you can see the pins, I will identify what each wire is. Because both of these wires are black, so you can't tell, there's no color coding on them, so you can't tell which one's positive, which one's negative. If you want to verify which one's positive and which one is negative, the easiest way to do this is if you have a voltmeter, you basically plug this into the bike, plug in the plug to the bike, start the bike, and then put a voltmeter on these ends, and the voltmeter will tell you which one's positive, which one's negative. Another easy way to test this is to take a CCFL inverter that came with your kit. This powers the halo rings. What you will do basically is just connect a halo ring, any ring from your headlight, on the end to the white plug, and then while this is also like the same as before as the voltmeter, while this plug is connected to your bike and the bike is running, the engine is running, you will take the red wire and connect it to one wire on this pigtail and the black wire to another one, and see if the ring lights up. If it lights up, then you know which one. The red would symbolize the positive, the black would symbolize the negative. If it doesn't light up, then connect the red and black in opposite order. Connect the red one where the black was and the black where the red was, and now it should light up. If it lights up in this order, then you can identify that the red wire is your positive. Where the red wire is going is your positive wire and the black one is your negative. But I already identified these wires, and most motorcycles, in most Ninja 636, 300 and ZX10s, if you hold the plug just like this with the opening facing you, the bottom wire right here is your low beam positive, and the top wire is your low beam negative, ground wire. So the bottom is your positive low beam, and the upper wire is your negative ground wire. And the same thing on the black plug. The bottom one is your high beam positive, and the upper one is your high beam negative. And that's if you hold the plug with the opening facing you, where you can see the pins. So if you are wired everything exactly like this video is showing and something, and the lights are just not coming on, double check the polarity of these wires. I described them correctly, but in case you mix them up or the bike is not wired the same as the video, then you can just double check which one's positive and negative and just make sure everything is wired correctly to the positive and negative wires. Okay, let's get into the wiring. So now the basic concept is in this. We will be using your low beam positive wire, which is here the bottom wire, to power everything. Your low beam positive wire basically provides a 12-volt current once the bike is running, and this would power it would trigger the HIDs to come on through a switch. Then it would supply power to your halo rings and to the demon eyes. And if you have LED strips, this is also where you're gonna wire in the LED strips. So basically any accessory you have from the kit, the positive wire would always be powered from the low beam positive. And all the grounds, like the black wires from the inverters or the black wires from the LED strips, they all get bunched up and go to the low beam negative wire. So all the grounds are always common grounds, so you just bunch them up all together and connect them directly to the low beam negative wire. Also, with your kit, you'll receive our brand new heavy duty dual output by xenon relay harness. This harness has a few different functions. What it does is basically connects to your battery and into your motorcycle, high beam, low beam, and ground. And what it does is it offloads the electric load from your stock wiring, and it draws its power directly from the battery. So your HIDs would not be stressing your motorcycle battery. And the second function it has, this relay box also controls your high beam, low beam function. So this controller box would control the high beam solenoids in your projectors, and it powers the ballasts for the HIDs. It's a very nice relay, and everything is labeled. Every wire that you need to know is labeled, so you know where everything is going. But essentially you have this lead right here with a fuse box. This wire runs to your battery and connects to the positive plus terminal on the battery. Then you have two of these connections. They're labeled as ground minus. You need to ground these two connections, and basically the easiest way to ground this is you're gonna unscrew a bolt from your motorcycle, and that bolt has to be bolted into the bike's main frame, the big metal frame on the bike. So you're gonna unscrew a bolt from the bike's frame somewhere on the side of the bike, put the bolt through the hole here, and put the bolt back into the bike in the same spot. And now the ground will be grounded to the chassis on the motorcycle. Don't put this through a bolt in front of the forks. So basically any bolt behind the forks is fine, like as you're sitting on the bike, from the forks towards the back of the bike. That's where you want to ground it. Don't ground it somewhere to a plastic grommet somewhere that's holding up to a bolt that's holding one of the fairings. That's not a grounding point. So don't use any bolts that are in front of the forks, like what the headlight is. Use any of the bolts that go to the actual metal frame on the bike behind the forks, basically between the forks and the battery. And then you have these two big plugs right here. These simply connect to your HID ballasts. And you have these two little plugs. This plug and this one. These two little plugs, these connect to the back of the projector. You're gonna have a matching male plug for these, and these plugs control the function of your high beam, low beam inside the projectors. Now, to wire this relay into this setup, it's very simple. We have 3 wires coming out of the relay. These are the control wires, and they're all labeled. The white wire is your low beam positive. So the low beam positive signal from your pigtail needs to be connected here to the white low beam positive, and it's going to go through a switch, so we can manually shut this off. So once the white wire gets power, your low beams come on. The yellow wire is your high beam positive. So the high beam positive always gets connected the same way. You're going to take your lower wire, which is the high beam positive, and you connect it directly to the yellow from your high beam pigtail. That always gets connected the same way, no matter how many switches or which setup you have. So the high beam positive goes directly to yellow. And this, once you put the high beams, this wire becomes hot and it has electric current, and it triggers the relay turn on high beams. And the black wire is a ground wire, and the best spot to connect it is to your high beam pigtail and to the high beam ground wire, which is the top wire, and just connect the high beam ground to the black wire on the relay. Now let's connect these, so we'll get our high beam pigtail out of the way. So the easiest way to make connections is using butt connectors, crimp connectors. This is a heat shrink crimp connector, can be bought on Radio Shack, and this is a simple crimping tool to crimp it. These are very easy to use, and if you heat these up with a torch lighter or a heat gun, they will actually shrink and create a watertight seal on your connection. So let's start by taking our high beam pigtail and connecting our high beam positive into the yellow wire on the relay. And I crimped the high beam positive, and now we take the yellow strip these a little bit. Okay, so let's take our high beam positive, which we already crimped, and connect it directly to yellow high beam positive on the relay. So we have our high beam positive connected directly to yellow, and now let's take our high beam negative and connect that to the black wire on the relay. And that's it. We took care of our high beam circuit. So the high beams are out of the way. So the only wire we have left is the white low beam positive wire. And now these four wires, these wires go to your CCFL inverters. These power the halos and the demonize. So in this case, like I said, we have dual halos, 2 rings per projector, and demonize. So that's a total of 6 rings. So you will receive 2 dual output inverters, which power the dual angelized, dual halos, and then you'll receive 2 single output inverters, which look like this, look the same but with 1 wire, and these will power the demonize. And these inverters connect to these power wires to get power. So what we need to do right now, we're gonna take 2 of the wires for 2 of the inverters, which will be the wires for our dual halo inverters. So that's 2 dual output inverters. And we take the red wires, which are the positives, and we twist them together because we want to combine two inverters into the same circuit. Then you take the black wires, which are the grounds, and you twist the black wires together. And then we're going to take the other two plugs and wires and do the same thing. Twist the two red wires together. And twist the black wires together. And now take both pairs and simply take both pairs of black wires and twist the four of them together. That's not combining the circuit, that's just basically a mutual grounding point, because blacks are the negative grounds and all grounds are usually always bunched together. So now we have two separate circuits because the reds are separate, but the grounds are together because the grounds are always common grounds. That's not going to affect the circuit in any way. Now let's take a step back. I just want to cover the most basic setup you can have. Is basically if you're getting our HID projector kit as a pure lighting upgrade, so you're only getting HID projectors. No halos, no demon eyes, no LED strips, just HID projectors for great lighting upgrade and dual headlight setup. And you're not getting any switches, and you're not getting any extras, just a great lighting upgrade. All you need to do, in this case we already took care of the high beam circuit, and all we have to do is just get power now to the low beam white wire. So we take our white plug, the low beam plug, we take the low beam positive wire from that plug, and all you do is connect it directly into the white wire on the relay. And that's it. You're not going to have any switches, you're not going to have all this stuff. All you have, if you're just getting the HID projectors, all you're going to have is your low beam plug, high beam plug, and the relay. And all you need to do is connect the high beam positive to the yellow, high beam negative to the black, and low beam positive to the white wire on the relay. And this is all your wiring. 3 connection points and you're done. It takes 2 seconds. And then all you do is plug these back into the bike and connect the relays, as I explained at the beginning of the video. Connect the relays and ground all the wires. And that's it. Now, let's take it a step further. If you're getting the HIDs and you want a switch on those HIDs, so you can turn them off, start the bike, and then turn on the headlights, what you will do, instead of connecting the low beam positive directly to the white, you're going to have a switch in between these 2 wires. So you're going to take one switch, which has 2 wires, and you're going to connect one wire from the switch to the low beam positive, and it can be any wire from the switch. There's no polarity there. They're both positive. So you're going to take one wire from the switch, connect it to your low beam positive, and the other wire from the same switch, connect it to the white wire on the relay. So now all you essentially did, you still have a connection between the low beam positive and the low beam positive white wire, but now there's a switch in between, so when the switch is off, there's no electricity flowing from here to here, and your headlights don't come on. When the switch is on, electricity is flowing from low beam positive pigtail to the low beam positive relay wire, and the headlights come on. So this is the basic concept of the switches. And now let's get back to our dual halo and demonized setup. First thing we're going to take care of is our demonize. We want the demonize to be always on when the bike is running. So what we will do is connect the demonize directly to our low beam positive. So the two plugs that you twist the two red wires together, they are for the two demonize single inverters. We're going to connect this wire directly to our pigtails low beam positive. And the low beam positive, when something's connected directly to it, always supplies power when the bike is running. So the demonize are always on when the bike is running. And now we have to connect the two switches, one to our white low beam positive, and the other one, the second switch, goes to the other set of red wires for our dual halos. This other set for the dual halos that we'll be controlling with the switch. So what you want to do is take both switches, take one wire from each switch. So let's take one black wire from each switch and twist those wires together. And if you have three switches, it's always done the same. Then you twist all the three black wires on the switches together if you have three switches. And all we have to do now to get power to the switches is connect the two switch wires into our low beam positive, which already has the two reds for the demonize. So let's connect those, the two switches. Into our low beam positive. Okay, now we connected the two switches to our low beam positive and also the two red wires from the two inverters for the demonize also into our low beam positive. And the next thing we want to do is take all the ground wires from the CCFL inverters, which are the four black wires we just bunched together. And connect those directly to our low beam negative wire. So remember, all the ground wires from all your accessories always go to low beam negative. Okay, and now all we have left is our white wire from the relay, low beam positive, and the two red wires from the inverters for the dual halos. And all we have to do now, we have 2 switches and 2 loose wires. So take one switch, any switch, you take the red wire from it, and you connect the first switch wire, any one of the 2 switches, to our low beam positive white wire on the relay. And this provides the electricity to turn on the low beams, the headlights. And then also simply take the second switch and connect the red wire from the second switch into the 2 red wires from the second pair of the inverter plugs. And this pair would be on the switch, so you can turn off both halos and just run demonize. Also, you can use the second pair as for the demonize if you wanted to. So if you connect these into the 2 single inverters for the demonize, you can have the demonize on a switch, and the halos would then connect to the other pair, which is always on. So it's up to you how you want to connect everything. So let's connect the second pair of CCFL inverter wires into switch number 2. And that's it. We have completed the wiring with 2 switches. Now if you wanted to add a third switch to this same setup and have everything on a switch, the headlights on the first switch, dual halos on the second switch, demonize on the third switch, then this is the low beam positive, and the 2 reds is to power the demonize. So if you want to have them on a switch, you would not connect these to the low beam positive directly. What you would do is you would have a third switch. So instead of 2 switch black wires going to the low beam positive, you would have 3 black wires, 1 from each switch, basically branching 3 ways from the low beam positive, and the 2 switches we have here are connected the same way. And then basically the third switch, the red wire from the third switch, goes into these 2 reds. And that's it. That's how you connect the third switch. So basically whatever accessory you want to be always on when you start the bike, connect it here directly to the low beam positive. Whatever accessory you want to be working off of a switch, like your LED strips if you want, you would connect the reds from that accessory, the positives, to the red wire from the switch. So if you have LED strips, you can connect the red wires here, and they'll come on with the bike. Or if you want to use a switch, then you connect the red wires to the red wires from the LED strips. You connect the red wires to the red wire on the switch, on the third switch if you have a third one. So you can do as many switches as you want. But this is the basic concept. So all you have to do now is connect the low beam pigtail to your low beam plug on the bike. Connect the high beam pigtail to the high beam plug on the bike. Mount the switches. And these switches, they're flush mount switches. So what you have to do is drill a 3/4 inch hole and snap in the switch. A good spot for these switches is right under your handlebars. You have a flat piece of plastic, and there's usually a lot of empty space under it. So that's actually a good spot to hide the inverters, right under the handlebars plastic that goes towards the headlight. And if you drill a 3/4 inch hole in it, you're basically gonna snap in the switch, and then the switch is gonna be flush with your plastic, and it's gonna look very clean. So mount the switches, connect these two to the dual output inverters. These two are connected directly from the low beams. Those are actually connect these two to your Gemini inverters, single output, and they're going to be powered directly from the low beam, always on when the bike is running. And the other two are connected to a switch, and that goes to your dual halos. And then mount the relay harness on the bike and connect everything as we explained previously, and you are done installing your lights. Enjoy! This kit is available on bkmoto.com.